Greater Sandton and beyond. Get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
That's right, the only radio show and podcast dedicated to Africa's richest square mile and beyond. It's the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and is always available as a podcast on Apple, Google and Spotify. I'm Alexander Leibner. This is edition 108. It's week 14 of 2023. And yes, we're into April, the second quarter of the year. If you want to email, you can email editor at sandtontimes.co.za. If you want to connect on social media, you can visit at Sandton Times on your favorite social media platform, or you can visit the website on www.sandtontimes.co.za. You can send in your questions, your comments, your feedback, your input. You're part of this conversation. And if you listen regularly, well, you're part of the Sandton Times Hour Nation. And you do listen from all over, from across Gauteng, from South Africa, and wherever you are in the world. I invite you to be part of this hour, both on radio and on the podcast community. And I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandton land. If you're listening live on Mix 93.8 and not via the podcast at a later stage, please feel free to use the WhatsApp line. That's the Mix 93.8 WhatsApp line. It's on 084 822 0938. 084 822 0938. It's always good to hear from you. And save that number to your phone. At least you've got it on there. You don't have to kind of retype it every week or retype it when you want to message the station. Vincenzo's behind the desk again. Buongiorno. Good to see you again. It's good to have you here. And I hope you enjoyed last week's Best Of edition, something a little bit different. And we've got a couple of more happening during the course of the year, just to kind of unpack the archives a bit and bring in some of those great conversations that we've had over the last couple of years. April Fools this past weekend. Did you get caught out? Did you fall for one of the multiple April Fools posts that happened on social media and all over? And were there any good ones? Were there any good April Fools that really got you thinking or got you talking or that were worth remarking on? I'd like to hear from you. Use the WhatsApp line or social media and share some of those. I'd be interested to hear what's going on there. It feels like April Fools has been a bit diluted because we kind of live in the age of fake news. So like it feels like it's April Fools at the best of times, not necessarily just one day a year where people really go out of their way to kind of make up stuff. But yeah. If you haven't done so, the Sandton Times, together with New Metro, the Sneaker Shack, and Sneaker District, is hosting an exclusive pre-screening of Air, the movie Air, which reveals the unbelievable game-changing partnership between a then-rookie Michael Jordan and Nike's fledgling basketball division, which revolutionized the world of sports and contemporary culture with the Air Jordan brand. It's starring Ben Affleck, Viola Davis, Matt Damon, Chris Tucker, and Jason Bateman, and the movie has already earned a perfect 100% rating on RottenTomatoes.com, with the top critic Marissa Mirabel of IndieWire calling Air a slam dunk and ultimately one of the best sports movies ever made. Now, you get a chance to watch this with me, and we've got some tickets up for grabs on the website, sandtontimes.co.za. So if you would like to be part of the fun, make sure you get onto the website, get all the details, and hopefully we'll see you there this week. It's going to be fabulous. Coming up on this week's show, the past week, Mall of Africa in Greater Sandton witnessed the Lou Twizzy Challenge take over the centre, and it raised overall concerns and around some of these viral social media challenges that are sometimes harmless and sometimes can cause some real chaos. And I chat to a leading voice in the digital legal space to understand the implications of these social media challenges. Then he's been entertaining audiences for over 2 decades, and he returns with a brand new show that will leave you laughing, shaken, and stirred all at the same time. Stay tuned while I chat to him. After that, it's a household brand that celebrates 40 years of business, and I chat to their head of marketing to take a walk down memory lane. Stay tuned for that. And finally, she's a distinguished and passionate chef who has now released her own home range, and I'll be getting all the details for you if you enjoy cooking, or if you don't enjoy cooking and are looking for something that could make cooking so much easier and so much more fun. This and more coming up shortly. But as always, we'll do the headlines in a minute. But let's get things started this week with a bit of music.
Show some love.
subscribe, share,
Leave a review and rating for the Sandton Times Hour
on your favorite podcast app now.
The best of Sandton and beyond.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
This is the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 with Tell Me Why by Supermode easing us into the hour. Right now, it's time for the headlines for this week. Well, kicking off with a bit of good news. Onatile Tati Zulu, a 23-year-old hockey player from Pretoria, was named the first female Red Bull athlete in South Africa at a luncheon in Sandton this week, and congratulations to her on that title. Then the Thabo Bester story continues to unfold like a Netflix documentary on 3 espresso shots. Hey, Vincenzo? I mean, the story of a convict who's now on the run, who was dating an aesthetics doctor in Sandton, but also running a media company from prison and appearing live at his own launch event in Sandton via camera from behind the bars, then escaping from prison, only to be spotted in Sandton, while some believed he had died in a fire. It's all just too much. I mean, it's just the wildest story ever. And Vincenzo, I think we need to maybe get someone on to talk about the story in more detail, because there's so much there that we have to deal with, and we can talk about it properly. So I'm just going to park that for now, but just so you know, it's on the radar. And then something joyful at the end there, an unemployed woman from Fourways has won 75 million rand. 75 million. Can you handle it? The biggest Powerball jackpot this year. So according to News24, the woman bought her ticket from Spar in Fourways. I'm not quite sure how many Spars are there in Fourways, but if there's anyone, it's being flooded by people buying tickets there now, I'm sure. And she's now going to build her own house and invest in her children's education. Wise woman. Hey? Wise woman. 75 million rand. From unemployed to becoming a multimillionaire. Congratulations to her. And Vincenzo, there's hope. There's hope for all of us to buy that magic ticket one day. Let's leave the headlines right there for this week. Ever heard of the Lou Twizzy challenge? Well, I hadn't. And along with a myriad of other social media challenges that might make you more infamous than famous. I'm joined by Emma Sadler, founder and CEO of the digital law company, right after the break.
Online, on air,
Anywhere, anytime.
this is the Sandton Times Hour. From Greater Sandton to the rest of the world, this is the Sandton Times Hour.
This is the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and on all good podcast platforms, wherever you get them in the world. As we kick off this week's edition, I'm interested to get chatting about this trend that popped up on social media this past week. And I don't know if you followed this, but one of the shopping malls in Greater Sandton managed to get completely overwhelmed by this influx of youth dressed the same, and it caused chaos on social media. And I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to get Emma Sadler on. She's the founder and CEO of the digital law company to chat about this. And Emma, thanks so much for making the time to chat to me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So Emma, let's dive into this. It was called the Lou Twizzy TikTok Challenge, and it's not the first time that this happened in one of the bigger sort of shopping centers or public areas in Johannesburg. But maybe you can give us a little bit of insight as to what this Lou Twizzy Challenge is all about.
Well, it's just one of those absolutely bizarre, certainly to anybody who is not a teenager, trends that we're seeing on TikTok. So the premise of a TikTok challenge is that somebody puts something out there on TikTok, and then everyone usually films themselves doing their version of this challenge, right? So it's incredibly popular. It's often incredibly dumb. I mean, the kinds of things that people find themselves kind of duped into doing in the name of a TikTok challenge is quite astonishing, I think, to most people. Anyway, this is a campaign that is organized on social media, primarily TikTok. And what seems to happen is in this Lou Twizzy challenge is that a group of teenagers, in this case, a huge group, it seems about 5,000 people, arrive in an orchestrated, organized kind of a way at a shopping mall and cause absolute chaos and then swiftly leave. They're dressed in sort of Lou Twizzy clothes, which are often dark colors, lots of sort of skeletons. But it sounds like things went horribly wrong. There were eyewitness accounts that there was absolute mayhem, that people were scared, children were terrified. There were various brawls between the teenagers, which were filmed and circulated. Apparently, initial reports was that somebody had died. It doesn't seem that happened, but it does seem that there was a teenager who was stabbed, who was recovering in hospital. And it's just a really bizarre and dangerous and often criminal kind of a craze.
Well, it's interesting you touched on that because, I mean, for most challenges, I mean, if it's baking banana bread or whatever it's been over the last couple of years, it's quite innocent and fun and you kind of get into it and you can kind of do it in your living room. Unfortunately, this one falls onto the other side of the spectrum where it does get a bit nasty and there are a lot of these challenges that you really ask yourself if anybody who kind of has sort of some will to live would actually still want to participate in some of these. And like this one, it does get a little bit messy and I think there's also been a casino that's also been sort of victim to one of these sort of flash mobs of these Lou Twizzy crowds that just rock up and just cause absolute mayhem. And interesting that you mentioned that, just because it's a challenge on social media and it's widely available doesn't exempt you from the law. It doesn't mean that you can kind of plead in court that, well, it was a challenge, so, all bets are off.
Absolutely. I mean, it's almost that we've got to start thinking about what we call the common purpose doctrine, which is that if there are 5 people who are at a scene and all four of them are shouting, kill him, and one does the killing, all 5 can actually be charged with murder. We've seen that in a number of high-profile cases where there's more than one accused. Now, that's not just because it's not that they've all got their finger on the trigger and they all go 1, 2, 3, pull. The idea is if you go somewhere with the same intention and, God forbid, something terrible happens, then there can be a number of people held responsible for that crime. And I just want to take you back. The age of criminal responsibility. We have this fancy word in law called capacity. It basically means can you do something? So criminal capacity starts at the age of 14 in South Africa, sometimes younger in certain circumstances, can be as young as 12 or 13. But from 14, there's not even a discussion. If you go out and commit a criminal offense, you could be arrested and charged as if you were an adult. You can't be identified. But in terms of actually being held responsible criminally, legally for what you've done, that starts at 14. So in an incident like this, where there has been violence, there's no question that some of the videos I saw constituted assault, even assault with intention to do grievous bodily harm. Those kids can be prosecuted. There can be public violence as a crime, damage to property. If it does border on theft, then all of those crimes can be prosecuted. And what often happens is that they create the paper trail. They almost give the police the evidence. Any content on social media can be used as evidence. And if I've got a video of a brawl, well, then there's not much better evidence than that.
Well, that's the sense I got from this, is that it almost attracted this audience or this crowd to gather in such numbers because half the people were actually holding their phones out, filming what was going on, hoping that it would go viral or it would get them more followers. And that's also become like a little bit of a sick side effect of social media, is that we, in any situation where things, look extraordinary or dangerous or whatever, the first thing we do is we pull out our phone as opposed to kind of doing what we would have normally done maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, which is sometimes to help somebody.
Yes.
I don't hate that videos of criminality exist. When I speak at schools and I talk to the kids about these bullying videos that you see, the lawyer in me loves that those videos exist. Because there's the evidence, right? In the old days, it was often a sort of a he said, she said situation. Whereas now, whether it's a screenshot of bullying on WhatsApp or a recording of a voice note or a video of an attack, the chances of that kid being disciplined or prosecuted or sued is much higher because that evidence exists. Just quickly on the bullying videos, though, what the clever people are saying to us, the psychologists, psychiatrists, etc., are saying to us is that if you share one of these bullying videos, the secondary harm done to the victim is actually exponentially worse because there's all the shame. And we had that awful case in Limpopo a couple of years ago where a girl who was assaulted by another girl, slapped across the face multiple times. The video of that incident went viral and that little girl committed suicide.
Horrible.
One of the most awful cases that I've been exposed to in the last couple of years. So I suppose the message is, if you do have a video showing criminality of teenagers or adults, by all means use it for evidence, but don't share it because of that extra harm that can be done.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still so much education that needs to happen there. And I think apart from parents sitting down talking to their kids about the birds and the bees, they also probably have to sit them down now and talk to them about the bluebird and the TikTok note and all of those things as well.
I might have to steal that one. That's very good.
Emma, you can have
I
it.
like that.
It's on me. It's on me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Emma,
royalty rights coming your way.
I'll send you an invoice. Emma Sadler, she's the founder and CEO of the digital law company, chatting to us about social media trends and some things that your kids might be getting involved with that they possibly shouldn't be getting involved in. Actually, they shouldn't be getting involved in because there are bigger ramifications beyond the cyber realm. It's the bottom of the hour on the Sandton Times Hour. We're going to take a quick musical break, and then we'll be right back with more of the Sandton Times Hour after this.
Back for more?
The Sandton Times Hour continues.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 with Weapon of Choice by Fatboy Slim featuring Bootsy Collins. And I remember that iconic music video with Christopher Walken. What a great guy and what a great track. Taking you to the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner. And you know how this works if you listen to the show regularly. If there's anything that sounded good during the show, but you didn't manage to get all the details, we're going to put all those details up on the website under the show notes. So you go into www.sandtontimes.co.za, you look at the show notes for this week, and you see a detailed breakdown of dates, times, venues, tickets, whatever it is that you need that you can't jot down while you're listening to this. Don't worry, it's all going to live on the internet forever. Also, be sure to check out the social media accounts at Sandton Times, and you can also connect via those social media accounts however you like, and also use the hashtag Sandton Times Hour. Well, as we get into the second half of this week's show, I'm thrilled to be joined by just one of those shows that you're probably going to be looking up by the end of this interview. I'm joined by Alan Committee. He has got a new show coming up at Monte Casino. And Alan, it's good to chat to you. It's a well overdue conversation.
I think so, sir. I've been waiting patiently for this invitation, and I'm here and I'm ready.
Unbelievable, Alan. The pressure is mounting on me as we get through the next 8 to 10 minutes. But you got a new show going called Live and Let Laugh, No Time to Cry. Clearly a play at some of the famous James Bond movies of the last 1,000 years.
Correct. Well, the inspiration behind this was actually quite simple. 2022 was the 60th anniversary of James Bond's 25 movies, and this happens to be my 25th solo stand-up show over that, I was going to say over the same period. In fact, I've done my 25 shows over 25 years. So in some ways, I'm better than James Bond, and that bombshell falls on your show on this beautiful day. So, the inspiration was from James Bond, and essentially for anyone who's seen my stand-up shows, I get a theme that I then use for the 90 minutes to 2 hours of showtime. And I just hook and hang a whole lot of stand-up material around that and play with it. So in this case, we look at all the silliness from stunts to beautiful women to exotic locations to fitness to age and the stuff that we've associated with all the James Bonds over the years. And then this face and body.
I mean, thanks for creating all the paperwork for me with either MI6 or one of the big Hollywood production companies behind James Bond. I'm going to have to deal with that voice clip on a separate note. But tell me, I mean, is it it's almost like a nod to James Bond in the spy genre, or is it kind of going as farcical as what they did with some of the other sort of comedic rip-offs of the spy genre? I'm trying to think of the one that comes to mind now. Austin Powers. That's the one.
Yeah. No. This is very much a kind of stand-up sketch show, but it's a tribute and a homage to James Bond. So when I was growing up, I'm an 80s baby, so Roger Moore was my James Bond. But there've been 6 Bonds over the 60 years, and so we unpack a little bit about what each of those actors brought to the genre. And then I kind of try and juxtapose what we've learned from a James Bond. So, for example, Inspector Daniel Craig has his back broken, or rather the character of 007 does, and yet he recovers in 3 weeks. He's able to make love and fight, sometimes at the same time. I'm not sure that's true of you and I, Alex. I look at you, you're a fine specimen of a human being, but I'm not sure that our recovery time is the same. So I look at, for example, age and fitness. I'm 49 years old now. I don't feel 40, but when I look at people in my age group, I see their deterioration. So I try and wonder what it is to be a man of age in this world. And then we unpack, for example, James Bond's relationships with women and, mostly with women around the world. And I was very lucky enough to do a show called Defending the Caveman for 8.5 years. And that show is now 32 years old. So we unpack a little bit about, some of those foibles of relationships, and do they still hold water? So the show is fast-paced. It changes topics a lot, but it takes as an inspiration and as a starting point some of the stuff we've seemingly learned from the 007 franchise over the years.
I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned this. I mean, Defending the Caveman, we were just chatting to Craig Jackson now, who's doing it, doing the sort of the latest version of it. And we've spoken to quite a few comedians on the show over the times. I mean, we just had Peter Dirk Ace on. We've spoken to, the younger comedians that are coming up now. And has it become a little bit of a landmine field to have to navigate as a comedian? I mean, you touched on two interesting shows, Defending the Caveman and obviously James Bond, who at their time, there was a lot of things that were, call it acceptable, or things that you could get away with, which are now frowned upon or maybe looked at in a very different light. And I mean, that's quite an interesting one to have to get through.
So listen, you're opening a very interesting topic, and so let's talk first about relationships. I think comedically it opens up a huge landscape and a vast array of funny topics, because our perspectives and attitudes have changed and continue to change. It feels like today they change almost every hour. So our task as a comedian is to interrogate our own material and to try and keep on top of that, and to reflect some of the empowering changes, but also some of the seemingly mad and crazy, incongruous changes that seems to have happened. So I think it's a space rife for comic interpretation. Do I have to be a little respectful, a little understanding, a little bit sensitive to what's going on? Absolutely. That's my job as an artist and as a comedian. The bigger picture is, in this world of super sensitive people and hyper vigilant people and people who are often looking for a good argument and or fight, I think my task is simple. I can joke about anything as long as I can interrogate and back my jokes up and defend them. Because of course people can take offense, they might want to be offended, but as long as I can defend my position, I think we're all good. And I'm very lucky in that, for those who've seen my shows, it's pretty family friendly. I think your task is to look at that material a little bit more clearly and carefully, and when you do, the material is richer for it.
Well, I think also I'd like to think that audiences also walk into these shows coming in with a slightly different perspective and a slightly different attitude, as they would maybe if they walked into Macbeth or King Lear or Swan Lake or whatever it is, because you're going out to have a laugh and to kind of almost take a step out of what you're normally used to and look at it from a different perspective and to have a good night out. I mean, not to sort of have a critical acclaim.
Absolutely. Although I will be doing extracts from Swan Lake as well, but that's not for now.
That was a surprise that we've just given away now to everyone.
Well, now listen, if you've seen my turnout and me in a leotard, I mean, that's something to behold.
Well, if you want to go see Alan in a leotard and with a martini in hand, Live and Let Laugh, No Time to Cry is on at Monte Casino. It kicks off on the 6th of April, runs to the 16th of April. It's only 11 shows. So if you know what's good for you, go out and get some tickets sooner rather than later. And we'll put up all the details on the Sandton Times. And Alan, I thank you for making the time to chat to us on the Sandton Times Hour about your new show.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for the support.
The best of talk and music in 1 hour. This is the Sandton Times Hour.
A change of pace for the hour, and a brand that a lot of us are very familiar with, be it through their very iconic advertising that they've had over the years, or whenever you've had to redo something at home, be it your kitchen, your bathroom, or anything else, you've probably had to go to one of their stores and source some of the hundreds and thousands of different variables that they have when it comes to tiles, when it comes to all kinds of accessories for your house. And it's unbelievable to hear that they've actually turned 40 years old. Some people might remember when they first started. Other people might have only picked up on them later in their life. But to chat about this, I'm joined by Sudesh Bigalu. He's head of group marketing at Ital Tile Group. And Sudesh, let's kick this off by wishing you all a very, very happy anniversary. 40 years, that's quite something.
Thank you, Alex. I just have to correct you. It's 40 years young, hey?
Okay. No, that's good. 40 years young. Tell me about those 40 years. I mean, I know you haven't been there for 40 years, but I mean, it's quite an incredible story how this all started.
Absolutely. And, we're very proud of this milestone. What started off as a concept, which was a cash and carry business way back in 1983, has obviously evolved into the retail format that you see today. And I think at the heart of it is our customer that's been with us on this journey and has trusted us. And the fact that we are going for 40 years really solidifies that, the trust factor. And we were able to provide great products at great prices to the consumer.
Well, give us a scale of the business. I mean, I know there's different brands that different people will know. And I mean, you're just everywhere.
Yeah, so the group is quite diverse in terms of its offering. We have obviously the Ital Tile retail format that sits at the top in terms of the premium offering. We then have CTM that sits in the mid to upper offering in terms of product and price. And then we have our top T offering, top T tiles, which is the lowest segment with total home finishing. So as a group, we're able to service all segments within the marketplace.
And how's business been going? Have you found that after lockdown, people went bananas and decided we're done looking at the same walls and the same bathrooms that we have for the last 3 years? We need to change up things.
Absolutely. They did go bananas and in a good way that they came to us. So, post-COVID. And I think the challenge at the time was, people were spending a lot of time at home. The lines were blurred with home and office, as you know. And I think people needed a space that they could escape to as a bit of a sanctuary. And what better way to do it than changing up your tiles and your sanitary ware and your taps? And that's really where we were able to assist our customers. And like we say, we were able to ensure that everyone was able to deserve a beautiful home.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what are some of the trends that you're seeing when it comes to that? Where do you see people sort of gravitating towards? Are they spending more time in their kitchens, outdoors, in their bathrooms? And are they gravitating to particular colors or particular styles at this point?
Absolutely. I think, some of the rules have been thrown out. As South Africans, as I'm sure you know, Alex, we spend a lot of time outdoors.
Yeah.
So we have great products in the Kilimanjaro ranges for the outdoor area. As well as beautiful tiles that now look like wood. So you have marble, look, wood, cement. So there's various looks that are tiles, but look like various substrates. So that's been a key trend. Texture, color, there's this whole jeweled marble look that's taken off. Terracotta is back. And I think it's, like Candace February, our visual merchandising person always tells me, it's no longer you have to do or follow the rule book. You can change things up. You create your own feature walls. You play around with color, with texture. And I think that's really what's been working well. And our buyers travel the world to bring the best products for our customers. And they're voting for it. So that's good.
So how have you marked these 40 years as a company? What's been sort of the plan to sort of celebrate this 40 years young?
40 years young. We've got great activities lined up for our consumers. So currently we have our bathroom sale that is currently on. And every week our customers can come in and win a 40,000 Rand CTM voucher. We also created this beautiful song, the CTM celebration song with our local artists. And I think, something we're very proud of is our local heritage. So Thokozane TK Nzima and Mauritian Laters, who's created this beautiful song, which I'm sure you've been hearing on the radio. So we have that, and we kicked that off last week at our CTM Southgate store. We also have some really exciting initiatives planned, which I'll share closer to the time for consumers. Yeah, it's all about product. It's all about ensuring we can be there to help them finish what they started in terms of their projects.
Have you resurrected any of the old characters like Nige, who always decides to buy his tiles in one place or another?
Yeah, we've been blessed with some really iconic advertising, and yes, we have resurrected some of those campaigns which are now being part of the celebratory campaign, and we want to, through some clever ways, just bring that to the fore. You'll remember the famous Tivoli ad with the lady in the yacht screaming out the name. Yes. Who can forget Bob and Nige and Carlo Tito Mario? So it's a brand that obviously has been around. It's a loved brand, and consumers, have resonated. But through it all, through the quirkiness and everything that we've done, it's always been about the customer, and it's always been about, ensuring we provide them with the, great fashion at great prices. And we want to involve our customers. So we currently have some competitions where they can sing the song to us.
Okay, right. It sounds like the line's just gone wonky there. Who knows? Load shedding or connectivity or something like that. But it's been great to chat to Sudesh Bigelow, head of group marketing there at Italtile Group, celebrating 40 years young, as he put it. It's time for a quick break, time for some music, and we'll be right back after this.
Follow the Sandton Times on social media.
At Sandton Times.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8, and that was Rather Be by Clean Bandit featuring Jess Glynn. Coming to the end of another episode of the Sandton Times Hour, but before we do that, we've got one more guest to chat to, and I'm thrilled to be joined by my next guest, who was recently appointed the national chairperson for the South African Chefs Women in Culinary, and she's also the vice chair of the SA Chefs Gauteng Committee. And in addition to that, she's also certified by the Emirates Culinary Guild and is also one of the few chefs in South Africa certified by the World Chef Association in sustainability education for the culinary industry. She is Fazana Alvarado, also known as Chef Zana. And it's great to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Hi, Alex. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Well, we did speak quite some time back, but it's a well overdue conversation as well. And I believe you've launched a new food range. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, I have. So I've worked super hard over the last couple of years. This was an idea that came about in 2016. And I think between then and now, it's just been milling in my mind, working on it constantly. I've launched my own product range, which is called the Zana Alvarado Collection. And I've had two very important things at the back of my mind in the production phase of this development. First of all, I'm a busy mom and I don't have much time to spend in the kitchen when I get home after being a full day at work. And I want to create meals that I have, restaurant quality, but in the fraction of the time. So I created a range that are all multifunctional products. Every single function, every single product has to have multiple uses. So for example, salad seasonings that double up as chicken and meat marinades. So saving time in the kitchen, saving money, but also getting that restaurant flavor into your kitchens too. So by following the instructions, you're able to put together something very quickly and also high in nutrition. So all of the bad stuff has been left out, no preservatives, no additives, no flavorants or MSGs.
And if I remember your packaging correctly, you've also got honeybee as sort of your main sort of icon. Why did you decide to go with the honeybee?
Well, the honeybee, it's been in recent years called the most important organism on the planet. And the reason for that is bees pollinate our food sources. And I'm sure that many people are aware of this movement called Save the Bee, where, they're trying to preserve the life cycle of the bee, but also encourage the rise of a new bee population. If bees stop pollinating our food sources, we simply will not have any more food, and it will lead to the extinction of the human race. Nothing on the planet, no plant, no veggie, no fruit can grow without those plants being pollinated, and it's the bee that is essentially responsible for that.
It's a great little icon to have. I'm a big fan of the honeybee, and especially creamed honey. But that's another conversation for another day. But now, what can people get in this range of food that you've brought out? I mean, sort of how vast is it? What are we talking about?
So the range has got 24 products in there, and I've launched with the first 6. I'm bringing in global flavors, things that people can use very easily. For example, I've got my best selling product so far is an Egyptian dukkha, which I make the traditional way. A dukkha is a blend of herbs, nuts, and spices. So it's highly nutritive. And you can use it in a variety of ways. For example, traditionally, it's had as a bread dip. So you would add some extra virgin olive oil, a teaspoonful of dukkha, and dunk your bread in it. Very tasty. That's the most simple way you can have it. You can also use it as a dry sprinkle over your salads. You can put it over your fruit salads. I love having it with yogurt and honey and dates. And a really nice way to do it when I break my fast, which is we're currently going through the month of Ramadan, I break my fast with a fresh white bread roll and I slit it open, add in some yogurt, top that with dates, and top it with the dukkha. It just brings in a beautiful, nutty, earthy flavor profile that goes well with so many different things. The dukkha is so versatile. It can also be used as a dry rub on chicken. You can also use it as a wet rub by mixing it with olive oil on lamb. It's fantastic with lamb and also on beef as well. And I love doing it on salmon. So if I have an aluminium foil on a baking tray, just rub a little bit of olive oil on a fillet of salmon and press in some dukkha and bake it until the salmon is done, and it creates a lovely nutty crust over the top. And that with a fresh, healthy green salad is just a perfect dinner on its own.
Sounds amazing. Listen, talking about global flavors, you're also running a little bit of a series on your social media accounts called Ramadan Around the World. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So Ramadan around the world is a very interesting subject because, as you know, more than 1 billion Muslim people around the world are observing the month of fasting. And I thought it might be interesting to see how people in other cultures actually observe the month and celebrate the holy celebration of Eid al-Fitr. So in Ramadan, for each week of Ramadan on a Wednesday at 9 p.m. on my Instagram at chef_Zana, I do an Instagram live where we cross live to a different country. And last night I was in Doha, Qatar. Previously, we've traveled to Alaska, where we found out how people wake in the early hours of the morning to start their fast in minus 50 degrees Celsius. We also crossed over to about 20 kilometers outside of Tokyo, Japan, where a young lady there told us about the Japanese eating traditions of having rice and fermented soya beans for breakfast. Trinidad and Tobago, where young Zainab spoke about going to the beach on Eid Day because, well, what else do you do on a Caribbean island that's, similar to paradise? You go to the beach to celebrate everything and have a carnival. So it's been interesting to see how people observe the holy traditions, but still incorporate their traditions and cultures and make it very specific to their country, their lifestyle, their regions. It's been a massive eye-opener for me as a culinary professional to see how the range of foods eaten in this month is so diverse throughout the world.
Yeah, and I suppose if people tune in, they also can get some inspiration, some ideas, like you say, but also some cultural exchanges there. Tell me about your new food range. Where do people get it if they'd like to try it? Where is it available in shops or is it available online?
It is available at a few outlets in Johannesburg and Pretoria. An online shop is currently being set up, so we'll have nationwide courier for anyone who wants to order. And follow me on the socials to find out exactly what the new releases are going to be. I've got some really upcoming products that are super and really healthy as well. But for example, the salad dressing mix, 3 tablespoons of this mixed with the dry mix, and then you create a salad dressing or a dip for crudités or a marinade for your chicken. I've got a lovely dessert spice that is so versatile. It can be used on flapjack, cinnamon pancakes. It can be put into your baking or as a dry sprinkle over your fruit salad and ice cream. So do follow me, check that out, and also send me a DM if you'd like to know more information about it. The list of stockists are published online, and you could also check out my website, which is currently being updated. It's zanaalvarado.com.
Well, there you have it. We're going to put that up on the Sandton Times website as well, in case you didn't get a chance to write all of that down. That's for Zana Alvarado, also known as Chef Zana, with her new food range. And also don't forget to check out her social media collaboration that she does every single week about Ramadan around the world to get some ideas. And I thank her for making the time to be on the Sandton Times Hour.
Alex, it's been a pleasure to chat with you once again. Thanks for having me.
And that's it for another Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8. And as always, available as a podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify. If you want to get in touch, you can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za or connect on social media @Sandton Times and visit the website www.sandtontimes.co.za. Feel free to send through your thoughts, your questions, your comments, your input into the content. It's always good to hear from you, and all is welcome. And thank you to all our guests who made time to be on the show this week, as well as Vincenzo. Thank you for doing what you do every single week, and catch you again next week. And thank you to the Sandton Times team, as well as everyone else on Mix 93.8. Have a great long Easter weekend, and if you are traveling, journey well. Thank you for listening, and let's connect again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.